Hi, I'm Kara Murphy, and this is Money with Murphy. Let's talk about inflation, or specifically, why policymakers feel good about where inflation is and consumers don't. Last month, consumer prices increased 2.9% compared to a year ago, tantalizingly close to the Fed's target of 2%. This prompted Chair of the Federal Reserve Jerome Powell to declare that inflation has eased substantially, and the Fed's widely expected to begin cutting interest rates in a couple of weeks. With that move, policymakers are close to declaring victory over inflation. But at the same time, more than half of all voters rate inflation as the top issue in the upcoming presidential election. Nearly 50% of consumers polled said that higher prices were the reason for their finances being in worse shape. Inflation also remains a top issue among small business owners. 25% report it as the single biggest challenge in operating their business. So why the divide between policymakers feeling good about inflation and consumers not so much? The issue is the cumulative effects of inflation. So keep in mind that the Fed and other policymakers measure inflation by how much the prices of various goods and services have increased relative to the previous year. And by that measure, the picture looks pretty good. Consumer price inflation has decelerated from 9% in mid-2020 to under 3% most recently. But just because inflation, or the rate by which prices are increasing, has slowed, doesn't mean that prices are coming down. Now they're just increasing at a slower pace. Think of driving a car at a pace of 90 miles an hour. Then you see a police car up ahead, so you slow down to 65 miles an hour to be in line with the speed limit. You're still moving forward, but at a slower pace. To have prices decline would be akin to going reverse on the freeway. The main challenge is that every time you go to the grocery store, you feel the cumulative effects of prices having increased at an accelerated pace for a number of years. For instance, when you go to the store, you might buy eggs, milk, and bacon. Those items back in 2020 would have cost about $10. Today, they cost about $14, an increase of 40%. That hurts, even if wages have grown during that time by 23%. So even if inflation goes to zero, eggs, milk, and bacon will still cost about $14, and it will probably still feel expensive for some time to come, at least until your wages have had time to catch up with those higher prices. So before you start wishing for lower prices, though, the last time we had substantial declines in consumer prices was during the Great Depression, when economic activity came to a screeching halt. So some rise in overall prices is considered healthy for the economy. The challenge for the Federal Reserve is getting inflation to that just right point. So until next time, please don't speed, invest wisely, and live richly.